All right, so hey, Chio, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
So I've been looking at YouTube, and I see all these people that do these videos where they're sitting in their cars
Yeah.
and they're driving along and they're talking, and it's like it's the cool thing to do. But in my mind, I sit there and I think, do they really not have enough time to just sit down at their desk and do a regular video? Their life is so busy and it's so important that they have to do it while driving. And I said, okay, well, we're going to do a kind of a parody of this. And we're not driving, we are flying. So here we are, we're in my airplane. It's just about nightfall, and we're over Sacramento, California here. You can take a look out the window. That's looks like there's some kind of stadium down there. And what I thought would be a lot of fun is to talk about 2020, what agents are doing in the marketing plan. And given the trends and all the things that we're hearing about from, top producing agents, what's going to be different this year, and what might we be looking forward to. So, Chio, why don't you start us off? Give us a little background on who you are. By the way, I'm Chris, CEO of Corefact, and welcome to my airplane. You want to give a quick introduction to yourself?
Sure. My name is Chio Saley. I'm the services for Corefact, and enjoying the plane ride back to Corefact HQ here. And I listen real quick because I think this past weekend I thought it was really interesting, our conference, and just getting a lot of insight from a lot of top agents out there into what their forecast is for their markets. It's all different, it's all scattered. But I think there's one I think we can all agree on is it's not an election year yet, or it's. So I think with that said, I think there's some stable. I think the year after that, I don't know what to expect.
Okay.
That's the general consensus kind of going. I don't think there's going to be too.
You think we're going into more of the same market then, is what you're thinking?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think it'll be that volatile as what a lot of people might expect. Also, in some markets, you might see where the prices are high. You might see more, price reduction and things like that. That'll probably lead to a little bit more expireds in some areas, but in smaller markets, I don't see price reduction much. Maybe the area we're at, since a lot of prices are inflated, I don't really see that in a lot of these smaller markets. So I think marketing-wise, it's not going to change. I think there's a saturation of a lot of agents out there in the field and stuff like that. I know it's been like that. We've been on this bull run for a long time. And so, when's that going to change? I don't know. I mean, the last time I read an article from an economist, markets can still be strong. And so if the real estate market can still be strong, if the job market's still strong, I mean, I don't see a big dip as what a lot of people might say.
Okay. Well, one thing I've noticed, talking to a lot of the top producing agents that I work with, particularly in the luxury market, I do see they're sitting on properties a little longer. So some properties that were selling really quickly before may have been closing in days or weeks, and that's changed. And I know some of that, some of the Chinese money has moved out of the market.
Big one.
We've seen a little bit of hesitation from some folks who seem to keeping their money closer to their vest, not wanting to move it as quickly. And I notice also that with agents, some of the agents are saying, I'm holding my marketing, I'm not doing as much in this Q4. So traditionally I've seen a lot of agents in Q4, they'll go and they'll try to take market share from people who aren't marketing. This year I see a little different. A lot of them are marketing, but they're not going crazy. It's a very steady flow of marketing going on, and they seem to be saving their powder for next year, and they think that the market is going to change. That's where they want to take market share from all the folks that drop out.
Right.
I mean, have you heard anything differently, or do you see?
I don't know. I think strategy-wise, I think before a lot of top producers would just jump into the market, especially a different territory. So a lot of these guys that we kind of work with, I mean, generally they'll probably splash into a new market and say, hey, I want to mail 1,000, but the strategy's been changing a little bit. A lot of it, I think, is due to one, at the borderline uncertainty of what's going on. So a lot of people are taking this micro farming thing to the next level. They're actually testing it in a lot of I would say quantity wise, they're not farming like they normally would, but they just want to test the market and see. And penetration, they might reinvest more into that particular neighborhood or community. But I see a lot of people having some hesitation with that regard and going into a new market, because once you jump into a new area, especially a lot of these agents who are on bigger teams, getting more buyer agents, they're getting more listing agents that need to farm, they need to assign territory group, and the only way to test markets is through maybe a strategy like micro farming, and even what you've been talking about, but in particular, is implementing that like bullseye strategy and stuff like that. So,
and, in addition to the luxury market, people changing up their market a little bit. One thing I've noticed this year, a lot more than last, it's just so many agents are changing brokerages. And I know some of that has to do with the big dollars in the industry trying to do some consolidation. That can have a big impact on it as well. And I know a lot of the people that we work with have their own branding. So whether they're working for brokerage A or brokerage B, their own brand comes first. But it is disruptive to make a change. You get busy just doing all the little stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, yesterday I was meeting a top agent, and I was back in 2017, 2018, spent about, I want to say maybe close to about 20,000 with us. And last year, brokerage.
Get a little closer.
They moved to a new brokerage, and they ended up spending less on their marketing. And I asked them what was different about the market, and they said nothing really. It wasn't that. It was just the change in brokerage. It was a really big disruption with their brand. And then, like a lot of times too, what's happening is they spend almost like one whole year transitioning their whole entire brand to like this new entity, and in turn, that kind of delayed their marketing a little bit. But also, it made them really think about how to spend their money a little bit more. They're trying to be a little more strategic with it. So yeah, it's just been interesting how a lot of these new brokerages that are popping up are, one, absorbing other brokerages, absorbing bigger agents, and in turn, just really focusing on that particular brand. And it's been having like a ripple effect all the way down to big agents to small agents. So there's been some disruption this past year, but maybe that's a good thing,
Yeah, I've noticed this type of disruption many times throughout, at least my career following real estate. Usually what happens is after it kind of all settles down, there are winners and losers. The winners are usually the ones that, spend the most time thinking about their brand, their marketing strategy, who to go after, and implementing a plan to actually achieve that. And instead of just getting caught in almost like a washing machine where they're just tumbling over and over and not really making any progress, because if you don't really start, if you get trapped after the brokerage change and you don't...
4 Foxtrot, Mike 9 miles to the south-southeast, just coming over the Dunbar Toll Plaza at 2,000.
And you don't... And by the way, people were flying here, so number one, I have to basically pilot this airplane, so there may be some stuff going on in the background. But ultimately, they get trapped with the new entity, and they're not really getting back to that, peaks and valleys kind of thing, where they stop marketing, start marketing, stop marketing, stop, and ultimately, they don't have a really good flow of listings. So as the market changes, though, and homes sit longer on the market, you have to do a little bit more for your clients to keep them interested, because they still want the top dollar price, but it's sitting on the market, so they start questioning, well, hey, my neighbor last year sold their home in 8 days, got 5 offers, and we may be in a 1 to 2 offer type of situation. So we've gone from that 5 to 10 offers, selling instantly, to now maybe 30, 45 days sometimes, 1 offer. And and sometimes the buyer may be asking for some concessions or something. So.
So how do you?
That's normal, though.
It is. It is. I mean, I think one of the biggest indicators is the market. I think looking at that number, if that starts stretching,
I think
we'll
squaring here to
a lot more less opportunity. But also, I think a lot of times too, man, it's like as a realtor, how do you set those expectations with a seller that's been on this like high of like this bull market? How do you get those guys to reposition something like that? I mean, is there anything that these agents could do when it comes to their marketing to really bring this reality check to some of these guys? Like sometimes, like, there's this kind of like from a seller that, hey, that guy down the block that sold his house for $20K over asking price or whatever that is, and my house has one extra room, and it's those little things like that. But if you're not negotiating on the right terms and maybe the right price, just because someone sold theirs for $20,000 more, I mean, make any adjustments on your end. How do you fix that type of situation? I mean, because the thing is, the next seller is going to have the same expectation.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I think most agents are going to have a much better idea of what the market's doing at the moment than a typical homeowner. And so, when you go into that listing presentation and you're discussing what's going on there, and sometimes you're competitive and you may be pushing the price a little bit because that's what they're expecting. But at the same time, you have to say, well, okay, we're going to try this here's the strategy. And if the strategy doesn't work, this is what we're going to do, right? So we may make a price adjustment here and have it kind of geared up so that the client expects it. Because if you just come in and at 15, 21, 30 days later and you say, oh, well, we need to chop 50K off the listing price, they're going to be really shocked and they're going to think you're not doing your job. Whereas if you prepped them ahead of time, I think that you get around that. And then I think also looking at the marketing and how you're going to, manage the open house. The open house becomes much more important in curb appeal and prepping whether you're using a concierge type service where, you're doing you're doing some of the yard work, you're prepping the house, you're fixing, you're staging. Those things are then what start to really differentiate the property.
What's your thoughts on something like, a lot of agents ask me this all the time, and maybe like hosting a certain open house date aside from like a Saturday or Sunday, maybe twilight tour, maybe do more often like a broker's tour to try to maybe leverage other brokers' buyers to come to the house. I mean, there's a lot of those little techniques. I tend to find a lot of people around this time of the year, they tend to stick with the. I'm not sure if like maybe we go with the opposite direction, maybe doing like an open house on a weekday twilight tour or something like that might get you maybe more traffic to the open house.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can. And really, at this time of year, at least in my mind, it's really about trying to create more relationships, trying to bond with people at, say, Christmas or Thanksgiving. And what could you do to kind of theme that open house? Maybe have, something that's, Christmassy, eggnog, whatever.
Yeah.
And try to develop more of those relationships instead of just shuffling people in and out. Often there's less traffic also at this time of year, so I agree with you.
This is kind of crazy, but I was talking to this agent yesterday about this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, and maybe everyone else's thoughts on this as well. But they had this idea of like, imagine you selling a home and you doing something like, kind of like what Tesla does, or even to a certain extent Airbnb. So,
by the way, we're flying over your town. That's Mountain House right there, right?
Oh wow, it is, huh?
Oh yeah.
That's
We're flying over Mountain House, California. We're coming from Roseville. We're at Corefact. We have an office. And our primary office is in Hayward. And so I usually commute by plane just because it's a 3-hour drive or a 45-minute flight. So
that's flying like a third of the time here.
So go ahead and continue your story, Chio.
I was saying, I was talking to this agent. He threw out this crazy idea at me the other day, and I was thinking about it. I said, hey, that's interesting. Check it out. His idea was this. He had a couple of buyers that are kind of on the fence about buying the house. He proposed to the seller to let them stay there for.
Okay.
you know, and he was asking me about this idea, and I said, well, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of risk with that. I'm not sure what the comfort level is for the seller to do that, but a lot of times, depending on how the home is staged, a lot of people, they don't know how their family's going to react to that type of home. They don't know if it's the floor plan that kind of makes a big difference for them. But we're just thinking about the idea of, like, well, let's say if you go out and buy a Tesla, for example, the Tesla dealership will let you actually take the car out for a day or a couple of days. Why is it that we can't do the same thing with the home, where you could stay there for a night or something like that and see?
Yeah, you could do that. You definitely could do that. If I were to do it, I would certainly set up a short-term lease agreement, even if it's no money, just to have a legal document in place, because you never know, they may decide to squat. Right? A lot of stuff can happen, or they're, the house gets damaged, or catches on fire. Who's liable? So something like that I think is a fantastic idea, but I would probably have some kind of lease agreement, short-term lease agreement, rental agreement that would cover the seller's side, make sure that they're not running into any trouble. But ultimately, that's a great idea, and I think ultimately that would work in a market where things are sitting on the market longer. If things are still moving, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, but if the market is you're seeing a lot more days and homes just sit a lot longer, people are trying to find creative ways how to market that home when they actually get the listing.
Yeah.
You've done your open house, you've done all the things you can, you've done your networking. So what else is there to do except for reduce the price? I mean, is there any other creative things that these guys are kind of thinking about where they could help, promote that property or something like that? And when you think about it, it's like, man, where did we start? How did we get here? Is what I asked the agent. And did he just take the listing because of the price and because of the seller? He says, hey, in your mind, you're thinking, hey, I can't really sell this house for this much, but maybe we just took that listing just to listing. And I don't know that's the best way about doing that business. So sometimes, like, marketing at some point gets you to that point where, hey, I can get the listing, I got a seller, and now it's about really promoting that listing a certain way. And if it's sitting on the market, aside from price reduction, at some point, I think the only thing you can do is really just take it offline.
Yeah.
You don't want to keep on reducing the price. You're going to think a lot of people are going to think there's something wrong with the house. So interesting to hear a lot of these agents talk about these ideas and try to think out the box as to how to really market this a lot more. Like, I think we had one agent who doesn't even host open houses no more. Pretty interesting. So
what does he or she do then? They just expects well, I mean, the truth is, generally, most buyers, if they're serious, have their own agent. They're going to want to come in on, with their agent on their own. They spend some real time at the property. But I know, just having worked with some of these folks in the past, they also will tend to run around on their own because their agent doesn't want to drive them around everywhere, and look at properties on their own. And then if they like it, then they'll set up an appointment to check it out. So I truly believe the open house is important, but it's mostly important for, showcasing to the neighbors, at least in terms of the lead strategy. Yeah, I mean, I think there are other things you can do besides just, do price reductions. One is you can increase your marketing. You can take some videos. You can try to syndicate it if you haven't already. I mean, if you're doing your job, you probably have already done all that stuff anyway. And then also talk to maybe some of the brokers in the area that are working with agents that lost out on a house or something, and they may have a buyer. Even beyond the brokerage that you work with, call the people who are working that neighborhood and see if they have somebody looking. Oftentimes, I've known other brokers that are working in the same neighborhoods that, have a buyer looking for something, and they may just need a little nudge to get them across that line. All right, well, here, Chio, let's go ahead and wrap this up because we got to get ready to land here. We are now over Livermore, California. Let me go ahead and turn the camera around so everybody can.
Hayward Airport. Airport information, Delta 0048 Zulu observation. Wind 260 at 3. Visibility 6. Haze. Sky clear below 12,000. Temperature 19er. 2.10. Altimeter 29er. 9er. RNAV GPS runway 2 left approach in use. Landing on departing runways 28. Chairman. Hayward DME unmonitored.
All right, we'll go ahead and, all right, so we got our ATIS. Hayward Tower, Comanche 6480, Papa at Niles with Delta for landing.
Runway 28 left, report 3 mile final.
All right, Comanche 6480, Papa for 28 left, we'll report 3 mile final. Comanche 640, Papa's 3 miles.
Comanche 0 Papa, runway 28 left, clear to land.
All right, runway 28 left, clear to land, Comanche 640, Papa. Before we stall, so we're fine. But what you don't want to do is get super slow. We have a long runway, so I can just use it. I don't have. All right, it's pretty smooth landing. Instead of like jamming on the brakes, I just let the airplane kind of slow down, saves my brakes. We'll exit here at Delta.
Hayward Tower, this is Cessna 6033 Sierra at 1,400 over the sunken ship with information Delta. Landing.
0 Papa, cross runway 28 right at Delta, contact ground point 4.
All right, cross 28 right at Delta, ground point 4.
Cessna 6033 Sierra, Hayward Tower, left base, runway 28 left, support base.
Right now we're crossing the runway 28 right. Can't cross there without permission.
Report base 330.
That was permission. I always look down the runway anyway to make sure nobody's landing.
Hayward is probably one of the busier.
Of the smaller ones, yeah. Hayward Tower, Comanche 6480, pop off 28 right at Delta for the West Tees.
Comanche 640, Papa, Hayward ground, text the West Tees via Alpha.
West Tees via Alpha 80, Papa.